Hello. Welcome to another All Hands on Deck. I'm Catherine McBean, and it's been a while. It has been a while. My apologies. Big life adjustments at this end. Lots and lots going on. You'll have to excuse the state of me. I've just moved my eldest daughter out. My first one gone, left, flown the roost. Moved in with a fiance this weekend. A lovely little house, but it's been a bit full on, and I've been putting my house back together. So you have to excuse all this once again. Well, I wanted to have a little catch up with you guys. It's been a while. And one of the reasons I haven't done a podcast is because there's nothing rolling out in any way that's untoward other than what I expected at the moment. And I think probably a lot of other people feel the same way. Plus, I've been busy, got a full-time normie job now back in normie world. That's quite interesting. It's incredible how many people are still asleep, but it's also interesting that slowly I'm starting to find people who are awake, if you like, in one way or another. There's a lot more people aware of certain issues, maybe not aware of all issues, and very much in the infancy of their awakening. But it's happening. It's happening. And I've ID'd 2 or 3 people at work who clearly are on the path one way or another, which is nice. So I'm just progressing those conversations, and then I'll move on to others, as I hope that we're all doing in whatever capacity we can do that. But so Trump won the election, no real shock there, let's be perfectly honest. He's bringing in new administration members, and again, nothing particularly untoward there. There's a few that are a little bit Zionism-y for me, but I'm very much keeping an open mind on this because it's not like we didn't know this might happen. And it's not to say Trump isn't going to deal with that, or Trump and his crew aren't going to deal with that situation in terms of the Zionist influence across the world, which I think more and more people are becoming increasingly aware of day by day. And even those earlier on in their awakenings, I think the Israel-Palestinian conflict has certainly woken a lot of people up. And the more they sort of look into it, they more, hang on, these guys have got some serious firepower here across the world. They control an awful lot. Hang on, is this right? And then you start looking at the history and go from there. We've obviously got Starmer. I think he's probably playing a role, but we've got Starmer just continually trashing the UK. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. More and more people are becoming aware as time goes on of the issues he's highlighting very successfully, which is a crumbling economy, a big issue with mass illegal immigration, the school system kind of falling apart financially at the seams, and tick box after tick box. He and his crew are just working through it, highlighting all the major issues that we've got in this country, which is good because it's waking people up. So they're doing what they need to do. A lot of people think it's nuts that I think this way, but I'd rather be positive than not. But it's kind of coming to the point now where enough people are starting to dig their heels, and you've got those politicians out there, be it reform candidates or similar, who aren't necessarily they haven't necessarily gone through what I'd call a great awakening. But they're certainly singing from the hymn sheet that a lot of us are singing from on certain topics, be it migration, be it the economy, be it the school system, be it whatever it might be. They're all starting to sort of ring their bells a little bit. Now, the way I see things rolling out, and I've said this for probably about a year now, is that I think Trump's crew are quite keen on Farage going into pole position, and how they're going to pull that off, I think, is through a series of revelations, some truths. I think certainly Farage will deliver some of it, and some of it will come from other areas. Now, the way my mind works and worked about a year ago, so I think I put on one of my podcasts, I remember contacting Steve Bannon's producer, because I could see Bannon pushing Farage and a bit of Liz Truss, to be perfectly honest, into some pole positions. And whilst I appreciate the support, thank you so much, I do believe it is down to we, the people, to make the decisions moving forward. And there's a number of different ways we can look at this. Now, if what the pantomime we're watching roll out is genuine, then it's going to come to a point where everyone's impacted. We knew we're going to have to head into some dark times. Everyone's got to be impacted in one way or another to want to adopt change. You know, people are, particularly, I think the British, we're quite stuck in our ways. And I'm not saying there's necessarily anything massively wrong with that in terms of our appreciation of tradition, our appreciation of our culture, our appreciation of our history. But at the same time, we all know change has to come, because what we thought we had is not the reality. What we thought we had in terms of a democracy or a monarchy, none of it's a reality. So we've also got to get our heads around the fact that, looking at it from the opposite side of the fence, whilst a lot of us can see a massive need for a removal of government, or certainly the government behemoth we've got now, you know, an administrative body is all well and good, and you come back, issue some more power, not necessarily through the county councils, and I'll keep saying it, come back to district, come back to town, come back to village, I don't care, local council, bring it all back. And what we're doing is, obviously, we're watching everything go in the opposite direction to that centralization, which is absolutely not what we need. And I think a lot of us know that. But as I have also previously mentioned, I think we need to have a transitionary government, because you need to allow the people time to still be able to look towards something they recognize, even if it is a bit different and it's gonna operate a little bit differently. It's still that comfort recognition that supports through this transition. Because what we don't want, and I said again a couple of years back, we really don't want to push for a societal collapse completely. That's not ideal. We don't need that to happen in order to usher in change. A lot of us would love to see everything turned upside down and, you know, put together differently. But we need to allow for a transitionary period. So it's who guides through that transitionary period that's important, and how we get to the stage where we can have a transitionary government. Now, what I think we're going to see rolling out, because I do think a lot of what we see happening is completely planned on both sides. There's elements. I do believe there's a lot more good guys in positions of control than we will see on the surface of it. But what I think they're going to do is they're going to let Starmer and co seemingly naff things up quite a little bit more. And then at that point, there'll be the reform crew, and we'll probably see some politicians that have been put into place coming out of other parties start pushing for a snap election, a snap general election. Now, at that point, we, the people, have decisions to make. I, for one, would love to see government go, certainly central government go. Like I say, have some diplomats, have some administration, have some connections with the military and other forces. But, you know, we do not need to have the monster that we have now that's costing us a fortune. We don't need it. It's not necessary. That's the first thing we need to really remember. However, what do we do this time around? Before we get to the stage where we have transitioned and we have fed the power back to the people, and we have cut back government control and government spending. I mean, it's insane. And we've started, that transitionary government has to start the things like the removal of illegal immigrants, about complete shakedown of the economy, proper audits done. I mean, this Doge thing is that Elon Musk is doing. I've been saying for a while, we absolutely have to have that happen in the UK, plus at county council level. Don't think it's just the central government. We need to go through the whole machine, the whole establishment, and look at how they're spending taxpayers' money. And I bet your bottom dollar we'll be able to shave huge amounts off what we're currently spending. Huge. But we need a transitionary government to allow us to come in to do that, to deal with the illegal immigrants, to deal with the COVID nonsense. I mean, let's face it, big tribunals needed, big issues there that we need to focus in on, and there has to be accountability, there has to be justice, and there has to be full exposure of every single element that was involved in either the lies, the cover-up, just the pushing of the jabs. All of that needs to be dealt with, as well as getting support to those that have been injured or are suffering as a result. We can't hang about with this. You know, I mean, a lot of people, it's too late, and that's terribly, terribly sad. It's tragic. But there's still people out there whose suffering is coming or in the middle of it, and we need to be getting as much support and help them as we can, because I think as time rolls on, whereas a lot of people were really angry with those that took the jabs, I think there's been enough time now. The timing is key on everything. Timing is everything for a lot of stuff. But the timing on this is key, because I think we've reached a stage now where the majority of us who were peed off with those that took the jabs and were having a knock at us for our position and so forth, there's empathy, there's sympathy, there's a desire to assist and help and not watch them suffer, you know. And I think that's where we all should be pulling in that direction, because as I've said before, they're not the enemy. They've made, yeah, I think they've made some stupid decisions, but they're not the enemy. Eyes on the enemy. So come up to the point, and we can push this forward. We can push forward for this snap election. There's things we can do on the ground. You know, we can all go on strike. We can stop paying our taxes. We could go with my original plan of we just take over every element of the establishment in a coordinated, peaceful manner. Just take it back all on the same day. Just do it. You know, there's lots of different ways we can approach it. We can have mass protests. I'm not entirely sure they work well. If you're going to try and get the country to go on strike, you need to have a majority, or certainly a substantial minority, in order to have the impact that you want. We can go on huge protests, but if you're going to do that, you want tens of millions, because the protests we've had before really haven't had much of an impact, let's be honest. Or we go, like I say, with my idea of potentially taking over all of the establishment entities. I see no other way that we can do it, and do it in a peaceful, lawful manner. Well, they'll say, you know, you stop paying your taxes, then it's unlawful. What you're doing with our taxes is unlawful. It's pretty much treason as far as I'm concerned. So I think, you know, and there's a huge amount of fraud involved. Another thing we might want to look for is all the smaller political parties coming together. Now, again, I was there watching conversations, listening to conversations, trying to help groups come together. But it was difficult because everybody thinks, and this is not just political parties, a lot of people think that their position is the right position. There is an element of ego involved. I'm not going to lie, there was. I don't know if it's changed now, but there was certainly an element of ego involved, and it made it really, really difficult to get these party leaders to come together and have conversations. You've got wonderful people like Dr. Tek Kong, who was very open, as far as I remember, to all conversations, and happy to connect with others. And there were some who shall not be named, who were less responsive, and less helpful on that front. And I think a lot of it does come down to ego, if I'm honest. So that's a difficult one. Where reform are clearly being brought in, and supported by things like the Trump team. Whether that's on the surface of it or it's reality, I don't know, but that's what we're visually seeing in terms of Farage has been spending time with Trump. You've got others like Political Pundit talking about Farage and reform. It kind of seems to be the way they're trying to engineer the situation. And I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad solution. Do I think what I see in the reform crew are the best of the best? There's two or three guys in there I really like, really like. But sure as heck, there's some that I don't fully align with. And what we need to remember is that even if we were, you know, there is an election and people will put reform into play, vote reform into play, they still might not be respective, and reflective of we the people. So it's up to us to decide whether, should there be a snap election, any of us step up either independently for reform or one of the smaller parties. What is your position going to be? What are you going to do? I personally would do it, not only because I think we need regular people coming into government for this transitionary period who understand the bigger picture and understand where we want to go as a country. Plus, I'd want to keep an eye on those bigger players, if you like, who will no doubt have some ego attached. I'm certainly seeing some of that, whether their intentions are pure or not. They haven't gone through enough of an awakening to understand that none of this is about them. Not one bit of it is about them as individuals. It's about the country. And I'm not convinced there's not some, if you like, superstar People in there want to be superstar people in there who will have an element of ego attached to their actions, and we really don't want to see that. So we've got options. We've got options right now, but once again, I think people are still waiting. The majority of us awake and aware to whatever varying degree are waiting for somebody else to do something. We're waiting for something to happen. We're waiting for more truths to drop. Again, I'm not criticizing that. It is just an observation as to that's what's taking place. I personally think there's got to be a few more truth bombs in reality for things to go smoothly on our side. What we don't want to do is evoke any form of anything that could look like a huge illegal action or civil war or more of this far right stuff. If we do, we do. Tough. That's what we come up against. But are we ready to do that, or do we want more people awake? Don't know. How much longer do we allow this to go on for? There's been loads of us saying, "Oh, this is the hill I'll die on," for nearly 5 years now, and we've done nothing. Not really, but we've done nothing. There's been lots of great stuff going on, but in terms of bigger achievements of completely revolutionizing our country, it's not happened. So we either sit tight, wait for more truths to drop. That will likely come from the US, the Trump camp. I mean, some of those people he's bringing in, I'm in absolutely no doubt that the bombs are going to be dropping hard and fast. And we wait. We wait. He comes in January 20th. I don't think he's going to hang around. He might even come in before that. Don't forget, there are still issues with the election count, and certainly with the Senate count. There are issues that still could bring a military into play. That still could cause somebody to stand up and say, no, sorry, we've got to address this. This is a big problem. So, yeah, could wait till the 20th or whenever Trump becomes president, should that be the route that we go down. Or those of you who've been awake for a while and heard lots of different theories know that there are actually alternative options potentially that could happen, but we'll see. We wait until Reform, who I'm in no doubt will do it, will call for a snap general election. There'll be a vote of no confidence. There'll be a something that will cause an election. And again, timing. It's not the time yet. I wonder whether Farage is going to bring that into play once Trump's in office. Who knows? Because he's going to want the backup. All of these guys who are going to try and move to the fore are going to want the backup from the US. So they might be waiting for Trump to come into play. I don't know, but there's a thought. We all start thinking about what comes next. If there's going to be a transitionary government, do we just want to leave it to Farage and his guys, or do we actually want to get involved? Do we want to play a part? Do we want to have a voice? Do we want to have it heard? Do we want to represent people around us? Do we want to see it as an honor and a privilege to try and help fix our country? I, for one, will, but will anyone else? Let's think about that. That might be the route that goes down. We might have a whole situation where our military turn around and say, hang on a freaking minute, treason's being committed here. We're going to come into play. It's an option. We don't know, but that could be an option. But again, even if that happens, you have to have a what comes next. And that's what we really should be thinking about, is the what comes next. Because, you can see it around you. The bombs are dropping, the truth bombs are everywhere. I mean, even like I say, at work, where I started a couple of months ago, more and more people, even in that period of time, have sort of, speak to them and they start saying things like woke, and they start saying a few words about this. And they're like, yeah, I can see a transition here in people's thinking. I can see things start to shift and move. And it's a little bit more each day. It is becoming a bit more each day. And those that sort of woke up in the last year or so are flying along in terms of the questions they're asking, the information they're digging up, what they're looking into. The whole jab thing. You've got Rand Paul, you've got RFK Jr., you've got some key people in strong positions who are absolutely gunning for Fauci. They're not even hiding it. They're not even playing it subtly. They're coming for you. They're coming for you, Fauci. And that just, everything blows up. So depends on how patient everyone wants to be. Like I said, that we have different options on action we can take. And again, I'm sorry this is a little bit bitty today, but it's just thoughts I've been having over the last few weeks that I wanted to share, because whilst I think it is Farage who's going to be engineered into position, I could be wrong, but based on what we're seeing currently, Farage be engineered into position, and people say, now, how are we going to get to that point? Well, at some point, I am in no doubt that Farage or one of his cohorts, someone similar, will be looking to start talking about a snap general election. And I don't think we're far away. I don't think we're far away. Already, we can see that, Starmer didn't even have the mandate to do what he wanted. He's completely gone back on his manifesto. It's there for all the world to see. I don't think we're far away from that. They might be holding out, like I say, for Trump to come into office so that they've got the backup support. Or we, the people, take control. We have the choice, we have the option. But what I'm seeing is people still want leadership. They still want a form of leadership. So what I want you guys to do is to drop comments below, if you'd be so kind, as to who you'd like to see outside of the current political system take a position or make a move or do a something that you feel you could get behind in terms of taking action. How many are ready? And what would that look like? So if somebody came forward and said, right, guys, we're going to have a massive campaign to strike for a week across the UK. We're just going to not go to work. We're just going to shut down, and everyone gets behind it. Would that work? Don't know. But who would you like to see take the lead on that? Ultimately, we don't need leaders. That's what we've got to remember. But we're on a weird transitionary period and we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We'd like to head there, but we're not there yet. So, excuse me. Yeah. Prior to January the 20th, when Trump should be inaugurated, but who's not to say he won't be in position before that? There's still that chance. What do you guys want to do with your time? There's the other little things like Christmas is coming, Christmas and New Year. Do we want to be dropping bombs now and revolutionizing this country before Christmas? I'm not saying we should. I'm not saying we shouldn't. But where are people at? I really want to gauge where people are at in terms of what action they want to take. Like I say, we're still sat here. We're still achieving nothing. There are some good things going on in the background in the UK. I can say that much. It is COVID related. That's pretty much all I can say. It's COVID related. But there's still some good people in the background doing some good things. Let's just say, I mean, if the tribunals were called tomorrow, we have all the evidence, we have all we need for, for a conviction to be able to be supported. But obviously, we don't have a judiciary, we don't have a police force that are on our side currently. So we can't go anywhere with it. But that will turn. That will turn. You can see it more and more. If you just look at the narrative, look at where the mainstream are taking stuff, look at what the reform politicians are saying and other politicians to say. It is a huge pantomime. It is a huge pantomime. And I still stand by the fact this is all being done to wake the normies up. But it's the what comes next. We are now empowered and knowledgeable enough as an awakened group across this country, across the world, that we know the games, we know what they look like, we know what the playbook sounds like, we know the bullshit they're going to throw at us before they try and drop something on us. And that's nothing to say that a new government coming in wouldn't do an element of that. Now, they might absolutely make us happy by dealing with things like illegal immigration, getting the economy back on track and so forth. But the establishment issues that were always there might still be there. And we know that they need to be dealt with. A lot of us don't actually want a big central government anymore. We'll reform, or whoever takes government next. Wouldn't it be nice if it was a lot of different groups? But whoever takes government next, they have to follow through on everything, because we're not going to accept second best anymore. We're not going to accept half-assed efforts. We're not going to accept any politicians just doing what they want to do because that's what suits them. This is for the country. And we've got an opportunity to create a golden age. We genuinely have got the opportunity to do that. There are groups and organizations who are miles ahead of the majority at the moment, setting up things already that will lead us and help lead us into a more golden age. Certainly things we can adopt and adapt and work with. We've got to get to that point, and we need to have people in place who are going to do that. Is that reform alone? Are they going to do that? Or are they going to call a snap GE and a bunch of us, whether you run as an independent reform, I don't really give a shit. But as long as you're running for your country, for the people of your country, do we want to flood the opportunities with people like us? I think we should. I think we should. So what are we going to do? Are we going to stand up and make something happen now? Are we going to wait until Trump's inaugurated, hope that somebody like Farage certainly makes some moves that we can back up? Do we just hang on to a GE? God knows when that might be, but hopefully not in the too distant future. But we all step in to do that. Do we do mass protests? Do we strike? Do we do what I suggested previously, which is literally just take over the establishment? Just take over all the mechanisms peacefully of the establishment. Do we do that? Do we just wait and see how things roll out in the US? Do we wait for our military to step in and say, hang on a minute, Starmer, there's a whole load of treason going on here, dude. You're not doing that anymore. What do we do? I mean, I'm ready to do something. I've been ready for donkey's years to do something, but I'm not going to waste my time and energy doing it if there's not enough people behind taking action. Just broke my pen. But behind taking action, it's got to be the majority of the movement at a minimum that all pull in the same direction. Anyway, I just want to plant some seeds there. Have a think about it. There's loads going on. I'll go back to doing a lot of my kind of standard podcasts soon. There's loads going on. It'd be great to get down into some nitty gritty of some stuff. But in all honesty, there's part of me that feels the nitty gritty is now irrelevant. You know, bigger picture, bigger picture. Country's falling to its knees. Our economy is shot to pieces. We know there's a chance the economy will be turned over, but we certainly don't want people like Starmer, good old Keith, in charge. Do we want Farage? Do we want Farage? I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not judging negatively. I'm asking the question. Is he the perfect person? No. Is anyone? No. You know, who else is there? Is that good enough? Shouldn't we demand the best? Lots of things for people to think about. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I'm going to do some more defined and detailed podcasts, like I say, coming up on how we can take action and what those can look like. I've done them before, but I'm going to do them again because I think people need reminding that we have the power. We can do it. It is a numbers game and timing game. Numbers and timing. All those things are critical, but fundamentally, if you get those right, the rest of it should be quite simple. But anyway, I'll get this out there. Lovely to sort of speak to you guys again. Sorry it's a little bit flustered, but like I say, my big baby's moved out now. She's left home living with her fiance in a gorgeous little 2-bed cottage. I'm so pleased for them. It's bittersweet, but at the same time, it is progression, it is life, it is moving on, and it's start of an exciting era, which may result in me having grandbabies in a few years. So I'm quite excited about that. But I've got some work to do first. We all have. Let's keep moving forward. Drop your ideas below. Drop your thoughts below. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling. Let's connect. I'm going to be commenting a lot more now. And I think we all know that over the next few months, there's going to be movement. And it's whether we allow others to dictate what that looks like or whether we get involved and have our voices heard. God bless. Have a great week. Enjoy each other. And we'll speak soon.